All right, Julie Nguyen.
Yeah.
Awesome to have you on. I know we've been connected for a while on social media. I love what you're doing there with your own brand. And quite honestly, what attracted me to reaching out and having this conversation, because you're obviously doing something right to pop up on our feed and algorithm. And as we were talking pre-roll, for our audience, we have a lot of folks that are in business ownership, junk removal services, as you can imagine, just based on what we're doing here with Junk Raider. But the real estate space, in my eyes, is one that is so unique for everybody to hear about what's going on and get kind of the behind the scenes look. And so for those reasons, we like to bring on folks like you fairly often just to talk about what's going on in your world, how you built your brand, how you got to where you're at, where you think things are going. Because, and I'll let you dive a little bit more into this, but realtors for me wear all the hats in the world, and some hats you probably don't want to wear at times, but just kind of necessary evil. So with that, Julie, I'll turn it over to you for a quick intro of who you are, how you got to where you're at today, and what are you doing?
Yeah. Thanks, Davis. Yeah. So I am a Charlottean. I can say I'm a native, which not a lot of us
Yeah.
can say anymore. So grew up in Charlotte, and actually my first professional career was in nursing. So graduated with my bachelor's, worked in level one trauma center for 7 years or so, and dealt with the burnout. Was really ready for a switch, so decided I was going to jump into real estate. So went to real estate school in Charlotte, and then kind of jumped in head first and haven't looked back since. I got married a few years ago to my husband, who's also a local Charlottean. That's kind of cool and unique about us.
Yeah.
And live here in South End, and actually expecting our first little baby next year, or actually 2024 this year.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, congrats. Do you know the gender yet, or are you guys holding out?
We're having a little girl.
Oh, amazing. That is
Yeah.
amazing. My wife's sister thought she was having a girl, and then halfway through the pregnancy found out it was a boy.
Oh my
Excuse me, opposite. They thought they were having a boy, and it turned out to be
boy.
a girl. So,
Oh, wow, that's an even more
yeah,
surprising.
maybe. Yeah, I heard the story, and I was like, I don't know if I'd be excited about that or scared or whatever. But yeah, I guess sometimes those aren't as accurate as you think. Not to scare you by any means that you're having a different sex, but
Yeah,
no,
hopefully they didn't
great to
start buying
hear.
a
You're
lot of,
obviously at a stage in your life.
yeah, the gender specific colors too.
I think they had. So they probably purged all
Oh
of
Lord.
that, tried to resell it, and had to change all the stuff on the registry. But no, their little daughter's awesome. But it's fun because you're at a stage in life that's very similar to mine. I've got two young kids. I think you mentioned pre-roll. You were currently building a house, and so it's
Yeah.
cool to connect with folks that are in similar stages of life. Talk to me a little bit about just your real estate world. Like, I make assumptions like you guys are basically running your own business. Do you think that's an accurate statement, inaccurate statement? And if you do think it's accurate, like, talk to us, give us a little behind the scenes of your day to day. Like, what do you do that maybe folks don't see all the time? I mean,
Yeah.
we know that you help buyers and sellers, but like, what else are you doing?
Yeah. It's a little more than what HGTV shows, I would say. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So what was so interesting for me was coming from the nursing world. You're so structured. You punch a clock and you're stuck under your manager's eye for 12 hours, making sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Real estate is the opposite of that, where you get to build your own success based off of your own drive. And that was
Mhm.
so motivating to me because there's no cap.
Yeah.
You can work as hard as you want, and the sky's the limit. You can make as much as you want, which is,
Mhm.
for a self-motivated person, really exciting. So
Yeah.
yes, I have run my own business. I have resources at my firm that I can reach out to when I need, but totally on my own as far as building my brand, networking, marketing, building my sphere, all of that is really just on the individual agent, which is, can be a good thing if you're motivated, or if you're busy, it not work out in your favor.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I'm always interested when I'm hearing about folks' background, because we've got a side of our business with junk removal where we're attempting to bring on other franchise owners to be like, all
Yeah.
right, I want to be junk creator Nashville. I want to be junk creator Raleigh. And so we're going to give that ownership over to those individuals. I want them to have the comfort of knowing on day one when you sign with us, you have something to do. Like you're not
Mhm.
just, oh, I'm now a franchise owner of Junk Creator Raleigh and it's day one. Like, what do I do? Am I just sitting, kind of like starting a new job? Like, what are you doing? So in your world, when you got your real estate license and it's like, okay, Julie can now start to help people. What did like day one, first 30, 60, 90 days look like for you? Like, how did you drum up leads? How did you start to work with people? What were your day-to-day tasks like in those early days?
Gosh, it's hard. Just like starting probably your company. It's not for the weak. I would say having my sphere in Charlotte, being from Charlotte was really helpful, and then having my husband also be
Yeah.
from Charlotte was helpful, and you kinda start with the people you know,
Hmm.
right? And for me, I never wanted to build a brand or a business off of cold calling or leads. While those things are really important, for me, I'm not by nature salesy. I'm a nurse, so I just wanna help people and have genuine relationships and connections. And so for me, I think my success has come from intimate relationships within my sphere and then referrals from
Mm.
there, right? So just like any career, I think what you learn in school, it's very different from the real world. I think for real
Yeah.
estate, it was really important to pass all of the tests that you need, but then actually get with somebody that knows what they're doing and act like a sponge and soak it all in. I think one of the
Yeah.
intriguing things about real estate is it's always changing and you can always be a student of your craft. And I'll never be
Mm.
somebody that says I'm the top expert, right? Because I think there's always things to learn.
Yeah.
And I always want to have that mentality that I'm open to learning and developing new relationships with people like Gen creators and being
Yeah.
open to, healthy criticism.
Totally. I like to ask folks because most oftentimes with things like this, or just anytime you're highlighting a business or even an individual, folks tend to talk about all the good things. But I like to go the opposite direction. And, for folks maybe looking to get into real estate or just business ownership in general, looking to start anything, I like to ask people, like, if you knew back when you started the negatives about being a realtor, like anything come to mind that's
Mm,
like, hey, I would advise this person to really just understand this about the space and maybe do a self inventory if that is going to be a deal breaker for you. Like you mentioned, it's not for the weak. Like if you're emotionally unstable or anything that relates to that, like maybe that's a good example. Or hey, if you
yeah.
don't like if you get to the negotiation table and you're like just not that type of person, like maybe this isn't the right industry. Anything like that pop in your mind?
Yeah, I think you're right. You need to have a thick skin,
Yeah.
especially coming off of the last few years of the Charlotte market real estate. It has been
Mm.
a bloodbath. And I
Yeah.
think you not only need to know stuff and be an expert in the Charlotte market, but you've got to have a thick skin for both the other agents you're working with and your own clients too.
Yeah.
This is a
Yeah.
really big purchase and a really big deal for them, and you're going to get the brunt of it a lot of times.
Mm.
So I'd say definitely needing to have a thick skin. And then I'd also say the not so sexy part of it is the financial piece, right? Especially if you're leaving a 9 to 5 structured salary job, you're walking into a business where you're not making money. And in fact, you're
Mhm.
dumping money to get your license,
Yeah.
to get started, to set yourself up. You're not going to see the fruit of your labor for a little while. So you either
That's
need to
right.
have a nest egg cushion for yourself or be prepared for that, which I don't think a lot of people really think that through once they go to real estate school. They just think that paycheck's going to start rolling in. And unfortunately, it
Yeah.
does not work like that.
Yeah, that point right there, Julie, is exactly why I love having folks like you on because it correlates so closely to just business ownership, and really there's a sales element to it. I'm a sales guy, and
Mm,
most folks who sell really anything, but a lot of like business to business type sales, you are
mhm,
commission driven very heavily.
mhm.
And so I get that totally. Like there's some months I may make $0. There's other months there, the commission checks are nice and large. And you just have to kind of be the type of person that can ride that wave, not just emotionally, but also what you've done in your life to set yourself up financially to ride the wave so that you're not like paycheck to paycheck. And
Right.
that's the same thing when starting a business. You're going to make an investment in equipment and marketing expenses and insurance and all this stuff that you need to start. And you're likely not going to break even for the first 6 to 12 months. So you have to have some sort of plan in place to be able to ride that wave until you get to steady state and you're now cash flow positive. So,
Yeah.
anyways, just a note there as to why it correlates so well with the real estate world. When you look at the top producers in real estate, whether that's within your own firm, other firms here in Charlotte, nationally, what is it that you think, if there's a common thread, that they're all doing really well to be top producers?
I have, um, I aspire to be one of the Charlotte top producers, right? I do very well in my office, and I'm um, growing, but there's always
Yeah.
a better spot to be in, right? So looking at those like top Charlotte producers, I don't think that there is really a secret sauce. I think it's truly just a hustle. If you look at the
Mm,
really busy, productive agents, they are in the market every day. They are doing transactions on both sides, the seller and the buyer side, every day, and they're
mm,
constantly putting in the market what's happening with the market because it changes every day. They're keeping up with the mortgage and the interest rates. They're knowing the changes with the real estate commission. They're knowing what's happening in the market, and I think that correlates with just being really successful and having people trust you and lean on you as a real estate expert. So I think it's truly
yeah.
just hard work.
Yeah. I get that totally and would agree, especially within our world, that really is. I mean, that's the common thread with just, I think, anything that you do in life is how
Mhm.
committed you are and what you're willing to do that others aren't willing to do. Do you find
Right.
yourself, because I know that there's some realtors out there that really try to, and who knows if they actually abide by the niche that they claim that they're, most nichey for or whatever, but like, or if it's just more of like marketing schemes so that they can define themselves as one thing or two things. But do you have a mantra or a niche as like, hey, I help first time home buyers, or no, I'm a luxury agent, right? I only handle 1 million+ sales, or do you have anything, or hey, I covered this patch of Charlotte, Southwest Charlotte, or
Yeah.
whatever really well? Have you decided to be that, or hey, I want to be the best realtor to anybody that needs real estate services? Of course, there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just curious.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because that's something that when you meet with sales coaches or real estate marketing people, they'll tell you that's one of the first things they say is pick a niche
Yeah,
and go with it. And I've always struggled with that because my clientele are first-time home buyers, they're people that are empty nesters and downsizing, they're people that are moving here, moving for jobs that need to rent and then buy something. They're divorcees that are trying to get back up on their feet and get a condo of their own. I mean,
mhm,
I'm spread so all over the map that I really not wanted to do that. And so when I
yeah,
started branding myself, I really just went with the theme that I'm a hometown girl. If you're moving
yeah,
from out of state or out of town, I can give you a spread of maps, North and South Carolina. What area is going to offer what? If you have a question about school, I got you. If you want to
yeah,
be near the NASCAR racetrack, I got you. So I think it's good to have a niche. I obviously think that it's very helpful for some of the top producing agents, but for me, I just have tried to kind of cast a wide net, and I don't want anyone to ever look at me and be like, "Oh, she probably can't help me. I'm only in, a lower end budget or a first-time buyer. She doesn't seem like that's someone that would work with that." I'm work with anybody, and I think that goes back to just having that hustle and being open. I have helped people buy tear down properties that are $100,000 or
mhm,
forever homes that are $1 million, and I pride myself in dedicating the same amount of effort and time and expertise to each of those clients. So
yeah,
for me, I have not nailed down a niche.
yeah. I get it totally. It's something, and I ask it because I know of my own self. Like I've always been that type of way, even as a young kid. Like I have FOMO in
Yeah,
various ways throughout my life. and that's what it is. It's like I don't want to miss out on this sale because somebody
Yeah.
thought I didn't do it. And I think
Right.
that's the challenge with realtors, right? You think that folks aren't going to come to you because, oh, she only helps with folks looking to downsize, or she only does luxury sales. She can't help me
Right.
with the $500,000 home. And it's just a natural thing I think most folks struggle with. Um, Here's an interesting question. What do you, being a hometown Charlottonian, what do you think outside world doesn't know? Like outside of the headlines and the fact that, we're 2 hours from the beaches and 2 hours from the mountains and kind of all the general data points that folks can look at Charlotte and be like, oh, those are really awesome. What do you think folks don't know about Charlotte that because you've been here your whole life, whether that's positive or negative?
Yeah. Yeah. So I actually get to work with a lot of people relocating here for work, or a ton of people move from up north because they want more moderate
Yeah.
climate, they want cheaper property taxes, more space.
Mm,
And so one of my favorite things to kind of talk about is the security of our environment, right? We're in an area that's got a huge banking center, right? We've got tons of banks in uptown. We've got NASCAR, like I mentioned earlier. We've got multiple sports teams that bring people here. We've got two lakes that attract people. I think Charlotte is so cool and unique because there's so
mm,
much security with all of the things that Charlotte has to offer. So I think if someone was moving to Salisbury or outskirts of Raleigh, I don't know that their investment would be as protected as it would
mm,
be as if someone was moving into Charlotte or the outskirts of Charlotte, right? Because we have a lot of good pockets on the outside of Charlotte. So
yeah.
that's exciting for me to kind of share with people is look at the history and the trends of homes in the Charlotte market. You're not going to lose your good money. Even if the market goes down nationwide, Charlotte, we're in kind of our own protected bubble, which makes
Hmm.
I just feel very confident.
Yeah. That's great. And when people ask me like what, you know, I had this conversation yesterday with a gentleman who was like, I forget where he was, but he's like, yeah, we're looking. Oh, he's in Canada. He was in Toronto, and he's like, oh, I've come through Charlotte actually quite often for business, and we're looking to potentially move to North Carolina. And wasn't trying to like pitch Charlotte by any means. I think he
Yeah,
was considering Raleigh and Charlotte, but I was like, when I go through my own head of like, oh, I'd love to explore outside of North Carolina, maybe go live somewhere else, and certainly travel. But like, can I go plant my roots somewhere for 5 years and just experience a different place, a different culture? I look at a map and I'm like, I always come back to Charlotte because like I
yeah,
don't know what it is. I love being on the East Coast. I feel like the whole world operates off East Coast time.
yeah,
I'm at a major international airport. Like I can take a direct flight to London. I can go direct to Toronto. I can go across the country. I've got the mountains to my west, very close. I've got the beaches to my
yeah,
east. I
yeah,
love the Southern culture. Like, and because I grew up here, of course I'm biased, but like, you can't take all of that and replicate it in different cities. Like Nashville's, as an example, has got some great things about it. People love,
yeah,
but it doesn't have everything. You do the same thing up north, same thing down south in Florida. But like when you talk about all of it together, I think that's the niche is like you get
yeah,
all of it here in abundance. Like not to go off on a tangent, I just or tell people to let's get more people to move to Charlotte. Um,
yeah.
I just think that's what the mantra is for us. Here's the elephant in the room for most realtors I know in 2024. But what is your personal opinion and outlook on the real estate market for the next 12 months? Like we don't need a crystal ball into interest rates and what you think is going to happen there. But like, I think the stats that I saw with Charlotte real estate was obviously like the home sales were down in terms of volume, right? Number of transactions. But like in 2024, like, what do you think's happening? More sellers jumping back into the market? Are we still going to see kind of this, what we saw in 2023? Are home prices going to skyrocket again? It's going to come down? What's your just general thoughts on the market?
So kind of what we touched on about the Charlotte market, I don't think that home prices are going to go down. I think they're going to go up in Charlotte. What the mortgage gurus are predicting is that as the interest rate continues to come down, which it will in 2024, and inventory peaks a little bit for the spring market that's right around the corner, it's going to be a buying front.
Mm,
So all the buyers that I'm working with right now, I'm like, okay, you can buy now with a little bit of a higher interest rate, refinance in 6 months or a year, and don't have you don't have to fight off 4 other offers in a
Yeah.
multiple bid situation, get in your home now and get settled and refinance down the road. I think it's
Yeah.
going to be a frenzy come the
Hmm.
spring.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the inventory problem is going to still be there, right? It's going to take longer than a few months to catch up. But I think this
Hmm.
is going to be Q2 is when they're predicting the interest rates will come down again. And I think that's when sales are going to jump up. Buyer competition is going to get a lot more intense. And the pendulum is going to swing back to a seller's market.
Yeah. Yeah, I think to your point about Charlotte being in its own bubble really rings true for me because when we bought this home, I told you I think in March of last year, like
Yeah.
I was as an outsider who's not in the real estate world day in and day out. I'm coming into this open house and I'm like, oh, there might be a few people here. I get here and there's like 20 or 30 cars lined outside. I come in, there's like 50 people walking through this house, and I'm like, what's going on here? I thought like interest rates were going up and people weren't. Anyways, we were lucky enough to get this home, and that was on like the back end of a down market where it was like,
Yeah.
home prices are coming down, interest rates are going up. Anyways, to your point, like I think just Charlotte is definitely in its own bubble. Um, what I tell folks, if anybody cares about my opinion on buying or selling homes, it's like I go back to kind of how my parents operated when I was growing up with like bigger purchases. Specifically, I don't know why I think about automobile purchases, but like they would take a really long time to purchase a car, and I'm talking not like a couple of weeks, but like a year, or two, three to purchase a
Oh my
used vehicle.
gosh.
And that's not a knock. That's not a knock against my parents. Like they're just those types of people and very conservative. But I'm like, we've lost 2 to 3 years here of like the vehicle we could have had or needed
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
time, and now the opportunity cost is lost because you thought you were going to get $1,000 off if you waited or whatever the case may be. The same thing with homes. Like
Yeah.
I think the smart thing to do is go after a home if you need it, and don't go after it if you don't need it, regardless of what the market is. Because to your point, if you get in at a great interest rate, you got a great interest rate. If it's not so great, you can always, or not always, but most likely refinance it down the road. And you just have to think about the opportunity cost. Like many years ago, 50 years ago, I don't know what the stats are, but like interest rates used to be above 10%, closer to
Yeah.
20%, like way back
Yep.
in the heyday. So do
Mhm.
you want to like wait and then like in 5 years you look back and like, dang, we're at 12% interest rates now. I should have bought when it was 7 or 8. Like,
Right.
yes, that's the
Yeah.
point. Like you should buy if you find something you like in a good area and it makes sense for your family.
Yeah. I think that the last couple years, to your point, it's almost been a disservice to especially first time home buyers that weren't around pre 2008 when interest rates were in the teens, because they're expecting,
Yeah.
well, I really want the interest rate to come back down to a two or two and a half or three. It's not going to happen. That ship has sailed,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Right.
But I think the expectation, it's important for your realtor to set clear expectations of what the market looks like, what interest rates look like, what that means for your overall payment, and not holding out for something great around the corner that's probably not going to play out. Unfortunately, if you missed out
Mhm.
on, the 2.5 interest rate, that stinks, but you probably won't go up if you buy now against 8 other offers, which people were doing
Mhm.
amidst COVID. So I think it's a little bit of a give and take when having realistic expectations of the current market.
Yeah, totally. Well, Julie, this has been a great conversation. Let's wrap it up with my favorite question to ask. If you could go back to younger Julie, whether that was a year ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, and tell your younger self something, then about what you know now, what would that be for you? That might be
Mm,
helpful.
I think I would have jumped ship from nursing a lot sooner.
Yeah.
I
I hear you.
think I would have told myself, trust your gut and go, because it's
Yeah.
hard for people that are getting into another business, even starting junk creators business. It's scary.
Yeah.
It's so scary to leave your cushy 9 to 5, or in my case, 7 to 7 job with a set
Yeah.
paycheck and benefits and all of those things.
Hmm.
But if you're self motivated and you have drive and a passion for what you're getting into, go get it. I wish I could have gotten in this
Yeah.
market even sooner because there's a lot of opportunity,
Yeah.
especially in Charlotte.
I'm with you. The gurus out there would say it's actually riskier to stay as a W-2 employee than it is to start something on your own because you don't have any control, right? They could
Yeah.
get rid of you tomorrow for no reason and you're out. And fun fact, my wife used to be a nurse as well at
Oh,
Atrium, Maine,
really?
and she was ortho trauma, and only got out of it because she was, we had two kids and she needed to stay home for a bit. But yeah, just fun fact there. But Julie, thanks so much for joining. This has been a phenomenal conversation. I hope for the audience that they get some value out of it, as I know they will. And good luck, obviously, to you and your family as it grows. And we'll be watching from afar, hoping for the best. Hopefully, no surprises halfway through the pregnancy or when that little girl pops out. Hopefully,
Yeah.
it's what you think it is, and you don't
We
have
got
that
way too much
surprise. But
space to turn back now. Yeah, that can't happen. Thank you for
yeah, I'm
having
with
me.
you.
Look forward to working with you guys more in
You got it.
2024.
Absolutely. If you want folks to find you, Julie, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Follow me on Instagram. Hometown Jules is my Instagram tag, and you can get all of my contact info from there.
Awesome. We'll put that in the show notes. Well, we'll let you get back to it and hope you have a great weekend.
Thanks, Davis. Talk to you guys soon.
Thanks. All right.
Bye.